Hi, it's Chris Woollams. The aim of my Sunday show, which is monthly, is to collect people with first-hand knowledge of a subject, a cancer subject. I want survivors of cancer. I want oncologists specializing in immunotherapy, for example. I want doctors who specialize in alternative medicine. I want expert complementary therapists, gut experts, diet experts, anybody who knows what they're talking about. And then what we're going to do is we're going to ask your questions, not my questions, your questions, the ones you send in that you are concerned about. And we will provide listeners from there with info, good information, tips, and usable ideas. That's the most important things that can increase your personal odds of survival. It's as simple as that. That's the Sunday show. Welcome to the fourth Sunday show, this time with my special guest and friend, Sir Geoffrey Boycott. Sir Geoffrey is most famous for his incredibly successful cricket exploits. Born in the West Riding of Yorkshire, he played for that county from 1962 to 1986, and for England from 1964, scoring 22 Test centuries and 151 first-class centuries. Over 8,000 Test runs. In 1971 and 1979, he actually averaged over 100 in both Test series. After retiring from cricket, he then became a successful TV and radio commentator. However, the Sunday show is about cancer and bringing our listeners tips, information, and ideas that can increase their personal odds of survival. And it's through cancer, in fact, that I met Geoffrey. In 2002, he had a cancer experience of his own. He had throat and tongue cancer, and he rang me up. Today, Sir Geoffrey will be answering your questions, not mine, on his cancer experience. So, good morning, Sir Geoffrey. How's life treating you, 18 years later, after we first talked?
I would say pretty good. I think everybody's worried about the virus because you can't see it. So when you can't see something, it's hard to fight it. Like fast bowling, I could see the ball coming, so it was up to me. But the virus, you don't know where the hell it is. So we're all a bit concerned about that, or we ought to be concerned about it. But other than that, I haven't got it yet. I feel fine. I'm 18 October. I mean, I'm lucky to have got this far, really, when I had that cancer.
I actually find it amazing. I can remember you inviting me to your 70th. It seems like a couple of years ago. I think it's my 71st this year, so we're getting on a bit, I'm afraid. Anyway, we made it. We've made it this far. Let me say what I'm going to do. I've got a number of questions here. I'm going to read them to you, and I'm going to chip in as I go along anyway. All right?
Yep.
So we'll see how you go. I put them in some sort of chronological order. Okay, we've got lots of fans of yours in Canada and Australia and so on. So from Jim Rawlins in Toronto, he says, I'm English and always admired your exploits on the cricket pitch. You always seemed calm and in charge. How did you first react and cope with your cancer diagnosis? What went through your mind?
First of all, it's the death sentence. I think at the time, most people were dying from cancer rather than getting through it and surviving. And you know that a lot of people do die from cancer, that they can't save everybody. So that's the first thing. And then the fear, the concern. For the first few days, I used to go into a room when Rachel and Emma went there, and I'd just burst out crying. I just would. I would sit down. I didn't know what to do. I cut up all my credit cards, cancelled memberships where the golf club and everything. I thought, this is it. The chances of survival are small. And yeah, it gets to you. I mean, don't let anybody kid you. I mean, us men, we don't like to admit that we cry. We think it's, the opposite sex, but it's not true. And yeah, it did get to me. But after a few days of that, I said, this is stupid. Because if you just sit here and cry and think, well, you're going to die, you are going to die anyway. So you might as well pick yourself up and try and find out what you can do to give yourself the best shot at surviving. to me, I've always believed, and I never changed my mind, even now this virus is on, that life is precious. It's the only thing that's the most important to anybody, because once you die, it's final. And you should help everybody to survive, to live life, to enjoy life as long as they can. It's the only thing that we really have. And so I picked myself up and said, look, this is stupid. You've got to find out what to do. And at the back of your mind all the time, when you start to be positive, you start to be determined, you start to find out about what things you can do to help your body help itself, there is the fear at the back of your mind that whatever you do, no matter how positive you are, there's no guarantee you'll survive. You still may die, but at least you're giving yourself a shot at life.
Yeah.
And that's what I'd say to everybody. Give yourself a shot.
Yeah.
Go and find out from people. The one thing that, Rachel, I always remembered, and you keep on saying it now to people, there are things out there that you can do. You can take supplements, all kinds of things to help your body help itself. You're never saying everybody can survive.
Yeah.
Everybody, you know, will live life. If you do this, you won't. You know, it's a little bit of a lottery, but there are things you've always said. If you do this, you do that, you help your body, and the sooner you start to do it, the sooner you find out you have cancer, you've always said, the sooner you start fighting it, the better chance you have. And that's what I'd say to everybody. Don't mess about. My mother, after my 100th 100 at Headingley, 11th of August, 1977, I come home. Within 2 days, she's telling me she has a lump under her arm. And I'm going, my God, how long you had that? Months upon months. She was of an age and an era, rather, where you didn't want to bother the doctor. And that's the opposite of what you have to do. You find any symptoms that you think you have it, run as fast as you can. Get on your bicycle, get in your car, go to the doctor, start the ball rolling, finding specialists, finding people like you to help them. And my mother eventually, even though we got her, it was too late. It was growing inside her. They took her breast off, a couple of operations, and she died about a year later. And that's what I say to people. You must fight it.
I had, just after you, about 4 or 5 people after you, I had a guy called John who had prostate cancer. And he actually wrote to us about 2 or 3 years ago. And it was incredible. He said, his opening paragraph was, you asked me what I wanted to, you to do. And all. He said, I told you I'd had the biopsy, I'd had the surgery, I'd had the drugs and everything. And he said, and 10 days ago, they sent me home to write my will because I've got terminal prostate cancer. And his next line on the email was, you blew up at me. And well, I would do. There's no such thing as terminal cancer. You can beat any cancer, providing you put your mind to it and do the things you're talking about. That's what I genuinely believe.
See, my mother had the symptoms that I had when I was first told I had cancer of the tongue. There's fear, despair, confusion about what to do. Your head's in a spin.
Yeah,
absolutely. So you have to get over the first few days of that, and somehow you have to pull yourself together.
Yeah, I agree. I've got a question here from Richard Watson in Brisbane. I've been told mouth and throat cancers are caused by smoking, alcohol, and or the HPV virus. What do you think caused yours?
Well, that's a good question, because I remember years ago talking to you about it. We were all on about it. I mean, I don't smoke. I never have. I don't drink. I'm a rare sportsman, and certainly a rare cricketer, because it's a very social game. Going to the pub and having a drink after cricket. They do that at local leagues. They do that at test matches. The lads go to the pub. I've never drunk beer. I've never drunk spirits. I only had my first glass of wine or so when I was in my 30s. And even today, I have a light red wine at lunchtime, small glass, and I have a cocktail in the evening. So I've never been a big drinker. So that, and smoker, that puts that right out. So what? Secondary smoking? I've been to pubs, I've been to places where other people, because they used to smoke in public places, everybody, possible. But I remember when I started to get, after the treatment and trying to recover and that, you sent me to Patrick Kingsley in Leicestershire. You remember that?
Yeah.
He was, what was it? A specialist in holistic medicine.
Yeah.
I have a couple of his books here. And Patrick tried to find out what had caused this for me. Somebody, non-smoker, hardly drunk at all, kept a fairly fit life as a sportsman. So he came up with 5 things. Right or wrong, I've no idea. He said lead fillings in the teeth. At the time, nearly everything was lead fillings. An intolerance to dairy. I had a lot of dairy in my life. In growing up, we had fruit pies my mum made in season, rhubarb, blackberries, all kinds, raspberries. We had cream with them. Custard was a staple thing with fruit pies. Milk in tea. I love tea. I was a big tea drinker. I don't know. Flying. By the time I got cancer, I'd been flying all over the world with England, lots of flights. He thought flying the radiation in planes. And I've no spleen. I lost my spleen when I was 8 years of age. I fell over some railings. Big spike hit me in the breast. It didn't puncture anything, but what it did, it had punctured my, spleen. And all night it was bleeding while I was asleep. And then my grandma sent for the doctor next morning. Luckily, she sent for the doctor, sent my dad off on his bike. Nobody had phones. He went to get the doctor. He came, emergency, operation and everything. He sussed it out. So I've had no spleen since I was 8. One of the reasons I didn't go to India earlier on, I had Indian and Pakistani doctors that were brilliant to me, and they said, don't go at the moment. And he said that might have an effect because what he said, you don't have as many antibodies to fight infection. And the other one, he said, just a few years before, 1999, I had the big court case in France where this woman accused me of something. He said that would have been extremely stressful to your body. So he gave me 5 things. Rachel was there. He gave me 5 things that he thought together had this effect of bringing on. I have no idea. I like Patrick. I like the things he said, many other things. I went to him a few times. He's retired now in West Indies, enjoying his life. And he comes back to England, does a bit of work. But I liked him. It was sound reasoning. Whether it is or not, I've no idea.
I don't know whether you remember our first conversation, because it was quite remarkable, because I'm never in the office. I was never in the office those days. I live abroad. And I walked into the office to see my cousin who ran the thing. And the secretary, who didn't even really know me, just handed me the phone. This is a true story. I don't think I've ever told you this. So I didn't even know who you were. I didn't know who was on the other end of the phone. And
You're the only person in Great Britain.
Well, no, come on. I've been bowled at by both of them, and I've played with all sorts of people in my time. What happened was, so she just passed me the phone, and this voice on the other end of the phone, he said, as you can imagine, I won't do your accent. He said, as you can imagine, I've been sent books, articles, and magazines from all over the world, and I'm just ringing you up to tell you yours is head and shoulders above the rest. And I said, who is this? Who is this? You said, it's Geoffrey Boycott here. So I said, I remember saying, so what can I do for you? And you said, I've got a tumour in the back of my tongue. They're going to break my jaw, go in and cut it out. And they've told me, that's right, they told me I'm never going to talk on TV or radio again. And you said, what do you think? And I remember, because I worked the same way as Patrick Kingsley did. That's why I knew him. I mean, I went up there with Catherine. And I always used to work on what could be the cause. That was my first reaction. And I said to you, do you smoke? You said no. And I said, do you drink? And you said, don't be bloody stupid. I remember this, right? And then I said, do you use alcohol-based mouthwash?
No.
And you thought a bit, you said no. And I said, and it was my little joke, I said, well, the only other thing I can think of is when you were in India or Pakistan or Bangladesh or Sri Lanka, did you ever get the runts? And you said to me, all the bloody time.
Yeah.
And so I built you a program and put you on a parasite killer in the middle of it. We gave you things like apricot kernels and so on. But
it was wonderful.
It's an interesting one. So anyway, we now know, for example, parasites, big players in brain tumours and things, much, much bigger now we know than ever before. Yeah. All right. Bill James of Vancouver, again in Canada. I've had a tumour. I've got loads of people in Vancouver and Seattle with your cancer.
It's beautiful there.
Yeah,
Vancouver, beautiful.
Yeah. I was a skied whistler. I've had a tumour under my tongue. They cut it out and built me a new tongue from skin on my hip. They're saying chemo doesn't work, only radiotherapy. What treatments did you have?
Well, I was lucky. I had a girl called Catherine Coyle, late 30s, frank, feisty, because I told her straight away, I said, listen, don't give me any flannel. No matter how bad it is, I'd like to know. I'm not one of those squeamish people who you have to try to hide the truth from and be kind to them. Tell me straight. And she did. I liked her. She gave me 2 sessions of chemo. And I think the first session, I think she gave me a bit too much. I'm pretty sure she did. Rachel knows. And it's all based, the chemo, on your weight as well, isn't it? They weigh you, and it's not an exact science. And then I had 35 sessions of radiation, which was a lot. I remember she said, in UK, usually the strength is around about 50 to 60. I'm going to give you strength 70. I've got to be careful because if you get too much, it can kill you. But she'd studied in France, if I remember, doing something called brachy, B-R-A-C-H-Y.
Brachytherapy.
Brachytherapy, and she was very bright lass. And she now works out of Manchester, I think, because her partner's there, a doctor. She was a clever girl, and she gave me 35 sessions. And let me tell you, it's not fun. I mean, she said it was going to be SHI and what have you, and it was, let me tell you. And I mean, we had some fun with it, let me tell you that too, because she said after a while I wouldn't feel very well. Well, the first couple of weeks, no big deal. And she said I had to go for a walk and exercise, I had to eat, I had to build up my strength. I said, yes, eat lots, you'll need it. You don't really know what the hell she's talking about, you know. And so I used to walk every day, and then I used to eat. But then it started, and then it starts to get real grotty. And in the end, she used to weigh me every Monday, or have the sister weigh me. I used to go and see her every Monday at Cookridge. And my wife would take me, or my brother, or the taxi lad, Mick. And she would weigh me. And she wanted me, I was losing weight then because I couldn't eat. Your throat gets bad with the radiation. And,
you have to have a tube, don't you? You have to have a tube to drink.
Well, not at first. First, I'm trying to keep away from that. I didn't fancy it. So Rachel's trying to make me eat. She's crushing up like carrots and potato and mashing it, gravy, so I can swallow it because it's very difficult and it hurts and it gets worse and worse. And so if you can't eat a lot, you start to lose weight. And she was weighing me. And I didn't want to have this tube in. I remember we used to go on, it's cold, remember? It's cold in the middle of winter. So I'm going with me Macintosh on sort of thing, short one. And I'm filling my pockets full of silver and coins so that I weigh more when I get on the scales. And I'm having to get on the scales carefully so they don't rattle. And I'm having to put a sort of handkerchief down in my pocket to press them down so they don't rattle. And I got away with this for a few weeks until about right near the end of my 35 sessions. The sister said, just a minute, I'm going to get Miss Coyle. And she come. And she bustled in. Right, I want you in now. I said, what, in hospital? Yeah, now, right now. I said, I need to go home, get some clothes. I said, now, she said, right now, in a wheelchair, down to the ward. Off I went, and that's when the tube went in. And I remember you told Rachel not to have it in my tummy, have it in your nose.
Yeah.
It was safer from infection, I think it was. Is that right?
Yeah.
And so we had it in the nose. And I had that in my nose from just the end of my sessions of radiation right through till nearly April. Must have been 3 months at least, this thing. And you also told us, we'll get to it later, they put in milk, a milk form of stuff that's feeding you.
Yeah.
And milk and sugar, and we'll come to
Yeah,
that. You
yeah.
tell me,
All
worst
crap.
thing possible.
Yeah.
Come to that later, I'm sure. But I think you have to understand. And I remember I got measured for the mask. I saw it the other day when you were asking me to come on here. I have this mask I got measured for, this mask. And then they put it on when you do the radiation. And this mask goes over you and to protect you. And it just leaves where the radiation, they leave the room. She's programmed in what she wants. And it starts zizzing here and moving more on the left side because the tumor was on the left. And your neck and here, my face is getting so burnt, and I mean burnt, it was a nightmare. I mean, I had to wear burn pads all around my face and neck, 24 hours a day, sleep in them. And when they had to take the pads off to put the mask on, wow, for those seconds, the air got to it, I could have screamed. Rachel used to cut up a number of pads to try and fit around my face and neck, because a square or rectangle pad doesn't fit easily around the shape of the chin and the face. And so she could get them on as fast as she could. After they'd taken it off, and there's a cling film with it, it comes off, and then you could scream, and she was rushing to get these pads on. And we changed those pads once when I had the treatment, once later in the day, to keep the burn clean. And it's a nightmare, I can tell you. Don't make it easy. It is a nightmare. But you have to stay positive.
Believe it or not, with most of my patients, chemo's still not really used. And it's radiotherapy and surgery. They cut it out and they make new tongues of people. But they are now, you'd be pleased to know, getting into immunotherapy. Things like Keytruda. She did give me chemo later as well. Yeah, she did give me some more, even though I had the tubing. So I didn't have a lot, but I had a couple of sessions here and there. I don't remember you having very much. Well, I've got another question here from Sally Rich of Bristol. She said, my question is to both of you. What role did Chris Woollams really play in your survival? Well, I wrote in a book, I've got it here. Geoffrey Boycott, The Corridor of Certainty. And I'm not telling you that to try and sell the book. The book was published some years ago. I don't need you to go and buy a book. I've done enough books. And when was this? 2014. And I said quite clearly there, with my wife's help, Rachel, that without you and her, I would have died. No doubt at all. The information that we got and the information you gave her to give to me was outstanding. I mean, things like going getting Stacey Darrell, do you remember? From North Yorkshire to got me on certain foods, miso soup and that. Got my body all cleaned out and everything. She stayed with us for a few days doing the cooking. And then you told us to have water out of a glass bottle, not plastic bottles. And those apricot kernels. And what have they? They've got arsenic in it or cyanide? So which have they got? Amygdalin only releases cyanide in cancer cells. Yeah, we just gave you a few. I mean, you know, you've got a very difficult cancer, and you've got to try a bit of everything, really. And you know, you helped my wife save me, no doubt at all. That I don't blow smoke up anybody's bum. Let me tell you, I tell it straight. And I've written that. You had me detox, you had me getting to no dairy. Like now, we still have lactose-free milk. Yeah. And that helps. I took all the supplements you told me, that little book we're talking about. My wife, as soon as I got cancer, was reading up about the cancer, but many of the books are very technical. Yeah. And when you got a death sentence, you give them cancer, you can't concentrate properly. Your mind's like, Christ, what am I going to do? How long have I got? Christ, if I've only got this long, maybe I should do this. You're just miles away. Your mind cannot concentrate. You told us to get a buddy, get my wife to really listen to the doctors, listen to the nurses, listen to Catherine Coyle and understand it. Because when you're the one that's got cancer, it's hard to take it in and remember it. Your mind is off, is away.
And so all the things you gave us, we did. And through the various stages, you gave us information. I was just looking here. When I had the intravenous drip, and they were feeding me with this milky, sugary substance, you said, that's the worst thing possible. You've got to get soya milk. And when my wife said to them, very nice, pretty lady she was who dealt with that at the hospital. Oh, we've never had that, she said. My wife said, what, soya milk? Yes, this gentleman who's helping us, he said it's there. And she came back, explored it. Yes, there was. Oh, she said, I've got 2 dozen in, and then I can get you some more. And yes, there is. And you took soya for 3 months, and they're going to give you this milky, sugary substance, which
I know, it's bizarre.
Crazy, isn't it?
They still do it. They still do it. I read in the Telegraph, I think it might have been the Yorkshire Telegraph, in an interview you gave on that book you just mentioned, in your autobiography. I read that you actually said in that thing, that interview, you said they gave me 3 months to live. I never knew that until I read that piece last week.
Yeah. When I first was diagnosed, well, I was shaving actually in Jersey, and I thought I had a lump. I've never seen that. I can't see a lump, but it feels hard. So I poked around for about a day, and then I thought, hang on, this is right. I went to a GP in Jersey. He told me to go back to England, see a specialist. Rang up, went back, saw this specialist, and he took it out, had a look at it, checked it, they did, and he rang me up actually. We were watching Manchester United play football against Middlesbrough, I think it was, at Old Trafford. And he rang me in the evening, just before the match started, and said, look, I need to come in to see me tomorrow. I said, oh, it's not good, is it? He says, come see me. And that's when I knew I got cancer. And then they did a scan, CT, MRI, and found I got 2 bits in my shoulder and 1 more in my neck. Oh. I said, that's not good. I can remember the fellow, he's retired. I spoke to him 2 days ago, 2 months ago, I think it was. And he said, that's good, Geoffrey. I said, what's bloody good about it? I've got 3 bits. He said, no, it's not gone into your body. If it gets down in your body, 5% chance only. And with ultrasound, they got rid of these. And she was happy, Miss Coyle. She said, that's a good sign. So that was that. And then we need to look for the prime site. And they found it in my tongue. And he says, oh, it's as big as a small orange. Wow. And then he said, look, I've got surgery in a day or 2 or something. And he come in, we move on with this, get it cut out. Whoa. Hang on a minute. This is a lot to take in. And so I rang a couple of friends. Friends were ringing me. And one of them was a surgeon through a friend in Jersey, a surgeon in Birmingham. And he dealt with thyroid cancer. And he was brilliant, John. And I gave him permission to ring up, find out all about my cancer. And he came back and said, listen, this is an 8-hour operation. They're going to cut your tongue out. You're never going to speak again. Have to break your jaw and wire it up for weeks. Oh, Christ. He said, hang on a minute. I said, what would you do? He said, well, I won't let him do that. He said, let me speak to a friend of mine. There's only 3 people in Great Britain I would go to. One of them is a friend of mine in Nottingham, Pat Bradley. He's retired now. He said he's the chairman of the head neck cancer. And I went to see him. We fixed up an appointment, went to see him, stayed at a hotel, Rachel and I. Went in next morning, under anaesthetic. I'll tell you exactly what you have. He came back with the biopsies. He said it's about as big as a 50p piece. It's near your voice box. Right, if we go in, cut it out, possible. But if it's a bit more diffuse underneath, or to take your voice box out and everything, then your quality of life has gone. Wow. And I said, well, what happens if I do nothing? He said, you'll be dead by Christmas, just after 3 months. I said, really? Yeah. That concentrates your mind wonderfully well. I said, that don't give me much time to find that Kim Basinger for lunch, does it? He said, no. 3 months. Wow, you're going. That really does concentrate your mind then.
Yeah, I think they do work a little bit on fear, though. I think that oncologists, they want you to do what they want you to do. I think that's the problem.
Well, he said I wouldn't do that. He said I'd have radiation, chemo, and I'm going to send my report up to Catherine Coyle, and then she said about it straight away. She didn't mess about. This is what we're going to do. I'll give you 80% chance. I think you've never smoked, you've never drunk really. Your throat's in pristine condition compared with people I see. You've led a healthy life, you've been a sportsman. She said, I think about 80% chance. I said, can you give me 90? She said, no. I said, well, I'm used to centuries. No chance, Geoffrey. But I think we've a pretty good chance. And that's how it went.
I've got a question here from Lynn Burns of Sheffield. You might know her. Chris frequently talks about getting a buddy and also building a team around you. I think we've pretty covered this already. Was that
partly.
Did it work for you? Get a buddy, build a team?
Yeah, I just repeat again. You can't think straight. People are talking to you. You're trying to take it all in. And it's very difficult. So I did. And I remember Pat Bradley, when we went to see him in Nottingham in the hospital, he looked at Rachel absolutely straight. He no mincing his words. He said, I've had a lot of people here, some of them very wealthy individuals, very important people. And quite often, the wives can't handle it and they leave because it's going to get seriously difficult. He said, you will be the most important person in his life. Oh, he looked straight at her. He was didn't mince his words. And he came up to that 70th birthday party when I lived. He came up with his wife, because I remember when he was doing the biopsy, when he was going into my throat. I said, listen, you're part Irish, aren't you? I said, don't be drinking night before when you're going to operate on me or find the biopsy. No, he says, I do a better job when I've had a few drinks. He was a real Irishman with a bit of fun. And the buddy is important because you just can't. When I came to write my book, I couldn't write about the cancer for years. It's just so difficult. When we did, she remembered things I couldn't. I couldn't remember them. I said, really, dear? She remember when you walked around the tennis court?
Ah, I remember this. Rachel telling me that you walk around the tennis court in the snow 50 times just because Chris Woollams told you to do exercise.
Yeah. And she said, you're not going on the road. If you fall or collapse, I won't know. Go around the tennis court. We worked out, I walked around the inside of the tennis court, whatever it was, how many yards, not a lot, is it? But if you do it so many times, it's no different than walking straight line. Yeah. And she says, I can see you from the kitchen. So when I'm doing things, I can see where you are. If anything happens, you collapse. And I used to do that, gloves on, hat on, scarf on, overcoat, walk. And she would watch and watch. And I did that to do my exercise. Absolutely. And it is important. I don't think people realize how important that phrase is to get somebody. And also, I was lucky that my daughter came home at times.
Emma.
She was about 13 then. And she was fun as well. She was fun to have around. So I think you really have to take on board that getting somebody to listen to the doctors, read stuff. When stuff comes, really read it, understand it for you. Because you will not do it yourself. You can't.
Well, the other thing too, in Britain, 26% of adults live in single-person households. So that's a big problem, I think, that needs to be addressed by the NHS. They need to almost provide buddies for people. I think it's difficult, you know? Anyway, I've got a question from Susie Fredericks of Adelaide.
Beautiful city.
When I had cancer myself, I read that you changed your diet, gave up sugar and dairy, and ate anti-cancer foods. Can you share any of this with us, please?
Well, I was a big tea drinker. Even when we played, I didn't drink beer, as I said. I drank tea. Tea with milk. And I used to put honey in it for sweetening it and energy while I was playing, batting. I haven't touched a cup of tea now since then. I drink green tea all the time. I don't take milk. We have lactose milk if we have it for like cereal. It's lactose free. I take all those complementary tablets that you tell me and change a bit every now and again. I take about 15 a day. I
remember you writing to me about 10 years ago or 8 years ago, whatever. And you said, I have to take all these bloody tablets. And I said, are you alive? Are you still alive? And you came back to me and said, yes. So I said, take the tablets.
Simple, isn't it? Yes. You want to live?
Yeah.
Work at it. It's no different. Look, when I batted, I worked at it. All the great players I've ever known, if they tell you they were naturally gifted and they just went out to bat, is a load of bollocks. Yeah. They all went to the nets. They all worked at it. They might like to pretend that they didn't work. They like to pretend that they were so clever, so good that they could just walk out, make 100 in a test match. Load of nonsense. They've all worked at it. I was talking to Gary Player. It was his birthday in South Africa about 3 months ago. I had about an hour and a half. You want to look at it. What energy and physical. He works at it. He goes to the gym. He does push-ups all the time. You have to work at it. If you want to live, work at it. If you don't, then just die. But if you really want to live, which I say you should, because life is the most precious thing on earth, then work at it. And I take all these tablets, fine, carry them around in a little thing, keep taking. I'm having a drink here, I pop in a tablet, drink. I have no saliva glands. It killed my saliva glands in the chemo, well, the radiation mainly. It killed it, so I'm always dry. It's an irritation, a frustration. Sometimes I've swear because I've forgotten a small bottle of water, but I just get over it. Yeah, I'm human. I get cross, I get irritated, but I get over it because I've been alive now for a number of years. And that's what you have to do. You just have to get on with it. Find out what you can do to stay alive and don't be ashamed or embarrassed by it. Do it. So I still take my tablets. I stay off milky sugar. I have no sugar whatsoever. I try and take the Manuka honey for breakfast. That's the best in the world, isn't it? The New Zealand stuff. When I can't, I have to fit in with whatever, you can get. You just have to work. There's no other way.
I read somewhere, a guy called Jeff Stebbing picked this up as well in Perth. He said, I read you tried alternative therapies. Was that just the apricot kernels? But he also said professional medium.
Yeah, I've been to them. Acupuncture is very good. You sent me to acupuncture. I went to a lad that was 3/4 an hour away. He was in Chesterfield. I lived in Wakefield. He used to go down there twice a week. He was brilliant. I still try and have some now. At the moment, it's a bit difficult, too close to people. I don't think she's opened the one in the village yet, but I've been to that lady. The other good thing is feng shui, Chinese feng shui. Yeah. Really, really big on that. Friends of mine in Jersey told me about this master from China. I have him come and see me and Rachel once a year. And he studies your house and everything. And the way the house faces for you with your birthday, your wife's birthday, it's usually the man mainly of the house. And right early on, when I was recovering from the cancer, he came and he said, when you sleep, you heal. It's important which way your head is facing when you're laid down to sleep. And that changes each year. I know he moved me out at Woolly Wakefield where I was living when I had the cancer. He moved me out of the bedroom where Rachel and I slept into a single bedroom because the bed faced the perfect way. At that time, it was southeast. And then after the Chinese New Year, around about January, Feb, I had to move into the back room. I was facing some western way. I was at northwest, northeast. And it changes each year. And then they believe in running water. That's good energy for you. And either you believe in this or not, but you should try it. Every house has a health area.
Yeah. And
he finds mine in the house, whatever house we're living in, and have a small light on 24 hours a day. Listen, he's been great for me. And you've got to, I think you've got to open your mind.
Yeah, embrace things.
The things you don't understand doesn't mean they're bad just because you don't understand them. There's all kinds of things. I went to a medium, and you think, this is a lot of hocus pocus, isn't it? You know, we're going to have singing and moaning and curtains drawn, and maybe a ghost is going to come out with some silly bloody noise. Nothing. Curtains were open, this lady. She said, look, I just had a gift from being very young, and I can see 1 or 2 patients on a morning, and then I get tired. The energy drains from me. So all I want you to do is put your hands on this ball. She put her hands on top. No singing, no moaning, no nothing. And she started to tell me things that you couldn't read in a book. Because I thought, hang on, I'm famous and infamous. You can read all sorts about me. You could fill a book tomorrow just reading about me. So you read up. No, she starts telling you things that nobody knows. And you go, wow, this is interesting. Oh, and she said, oh, you'll do this and you'll be all right. And I said, sure about that? Oh, yeah. It's very interesting, but open your mind. There are things out there that we don't understand, but they work.
Yeah. I had my tarot cards done once. I was actually between my working for some other people and then my own business. And I actually had a fitness trainer's watch on because I learned to be a fitness trainer. And I went down to Brighton in jeans and in training tracksuit and a top and just coming straight from the gym virtually. And the guy did my tarot cards and he did exactly the same because I didn't say a word. And he said, he took my picture of my chakras basically and my energy. And he said, looking at me, he said, I think we need to go and talk about this upstairs. He said, this is the picture. These are the energy fields of someone who's intelligent, been to university, been in high business or whatever. He's looking at this scruff who's just come from the gym and he just got everything right. It was unbelievable how many kids I had, everything. It was just bizarre. Anyway, let's back to the questions. Rick Basil from Seattle said, you seem to get over it all very quickly back in 2000, 2003, 2002, 2003. What was the biggest factor in your success?
Positivity and determination. I had that in my cricket, but I remember asking Catherine Coyle, different doctors, Pat Bradley, I said, listen, people tell you, doctors say, look, you've got to stay positive and what have you. Is this an old wives' tale or not? He said, no. He said, we don't understand it, but the people who are positive and strong about illness, they do have a better chance of recovery. We found that, and we don't know why. But so I think you've got to stand up for yourself and say, listen, I'm going to give this the best shot I can. I talked about that at the beginning. I think you have to. My daughter made me laugh. My wife made everything at home, yeah, pretty normal. I mean, even when I'd lost my taste buds after all the treatment, and they've never come back. Well, they have to a degree, but for a long time, I couldn't taste food. She would make food that I visually liked. She knew I liked. I ate it, but it tasted like cardboard. Because my daughter, as I said, was young, but she used to laugh. Because her mother used to give me food, and she used to sprinkle it with a bit of sugar. She was naughty, but she wanted me to eat. I'd lost 3.5 stone. I was skin and bone. I was terrible. I looked awful. And we had to get me built up. And she cheated a little bit for a short time to get me eating something. Because everything tasted like cardboard. But she tried to make life normal. My daughter used to laugh. My daughter used to clean my tube out for a long time. She'd come down in the morning. The tube had to be taken off, cleaned out, put back. Then the bottle of food, had to be put up there, the soya milk. She would come and do it. Her mother would get her to do it, so she felt involved in my recovery. And she was funny, as kids are. She's very funny, make you laugh. So, yeah, she made home life. I think that's important. Look, when I first got cancer, I had a lot of people ringing me up. And some people said I should go to this, what's the big hospital in London that does cancer? I should go there, the new people and what have you. Some people, the new people in Switzerland, New York, wanted me to go to these. And talking to people, but hang on, this recovery here from what I mean is going to be a long time. I need to be at home amongst, you know, doctors always say, don't they, when they do any kind of operation in hospital, once you're recovered a bit out of danger, they want to get you home. They want to get you into your comfortable surroundings that you used to, the people you used to, your wife, your daughter, your son, you know, everybody you know. And so I made that decision with Rachel that I didn't want to go into these places. I needed to be at home, and she made home life as normal as you can in this difficult situation. She could sometimes she was cross with me. She'll get really bloody cross. She swore because I used to get food and I didn't have any energy. I didn't have any appetite, and she'd make food for me, and I kind of stir it and play with it round the plate like a baby does. And she said, "Are you going to eat that bloody thing?" And oh God, I'm not going to tell you. And she really should get cross.
How did you manage your kind of stress and fear? Because you talked earlier on about stress and fear, and you know, how did you manage it? So I think it gets to lots of people. Some people say it's very hard to be positive because, you know, of the fear of it all. And other people, I always ask people, you know, do you get stressed? And they might say, yes, with my job or whatever. And they tell me about the stresses in life. But quite a lot of people say, no, just the cancer made me stressed. How would you...
You've got to have laughter. You've got to have laughter. I just pointed out my daughter used to do the intro. She'd make me laugh. And she used to... My mother would tell her to feed me because I'd play with the food, and so she would go and feed me. She thought that was funny. What's it taste like, Daddy? I said, starting with S. And she'd just laugh. And she'd come from school and tell you things that had happened at school. That was good. I was a positive person anyway. I think you like when I had the treatment, I found little goals for myself. When I was having the treatment, and Catherine Coyle says, I'm going to give you 35 sessions. I counted them. 8 of I. 9.
Yeah, you count your runs.
Like runs. You've got to count, you've got to little things. And said, I mean, you have to. You have to have little goals. And that's how I battered anyhow. I didn't bat. Yeah. I batted for 100, but I didn't think of when I went in, I'm going to get 100. I thought I'm going to get 10. Yeah. Then I get 10, I get 20. I get to 30, I'm on my way now. I'm going to be very difficult to get out. I'm going to get 50. Once I get 50, I'm only thinking 100. So your target at the beginning is small, the little targets. And then as your confidence increases, get bigger targets. And I kept telling myself this, it's right, I've got to get to the end of the month, see how I am, end of the month. I mean, it is. I mean, for a while, my tongue was so bad, it had sores on it like a gargoyle. And I remember on Christmas Day, Rachel, Emma, and had a mum there and had a brother and his wife, and they were having Christmas lunch in the conservatory. And I'm just sat in the chair with the tube feeding me. And I had a handkerchief in my mouth. These sores on my tongue touched my teeth, I could have screamed. So I'm putting this handkerchief on. She come in, wow, is that a pain? Yeah. Sent for the doctor immediately, came, gave me some stuff and eased it and everything. You have to set goals. That was as bad as it got at Christmas Day. And from then on, you have to say, right, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. What do you want me to do? Start walking. Oh, Jesus, really? Oh, and do round the tennis court 3 times. Oh, that's enough. And then, you know, a few days later, you're getting up to 5. Then you get up to 10. You've got to tell yourself, right, Monday, I'm going to do 10. By Friday, I'll have done 10 4 times. I'm going to do 15. You have to make yourself goals. Because from when you first start treatment to when you're well, it's like, wow, it's out there. It's so far away. When you lose 3 stone, you feel terrible. you've lost your appetite, you've lost your taste buds, your throat is so dry because you need liquid all the time. Oh, I could go on about it, but you have to set yourself little goals. Then the goals get bigger as you get, I would say, better, a bit better all the time.
Yeah. I've got a question here from Matt Richards in Cheltenham. He said, how do you feel now about your cancer 18 years on? Is that it? Are you cured? Is it gone? Do you still watch everything? Are you concerned it just might come back a bit?
No, I'm not concerned about that. I mean, I could get cancer somewhere else. I could get prostate cancer.
Yeah.
I've had my prostate checked, apparently fine and what have you, but I could get cancer somewhere else. But no, I don't think about that at all. We still don't have dairy as much. I mean, look, if I had a bit of dairy, it's going to kill me, you know. It's a build-up in your body.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
if I'm out somewhere, I travel a lot. I didn't commentate it until this year. I've done a lot of that, traveling all over. If you can't get exactly what you want, I mean, don't make a song and dance about it. Have some food, then go back to your regime, as it were, when you can. But we have lactose-free milk. We have food that's good for me. I still have green tea. I don't have any tea. I spoil myself occasionally. I have a coffee. Most days I have one coffee. I don't have a lot. That has a bit of milk.
The red wine?
I have a small glass of red wine. I only have red wine at home. When I'm here in South Africa at our house, or I'm here in Boston Spa, because I've never been a drinker, as I said, and I wouldn't have wine out if I was working or anything. No ways. Because I get sleepy. I've never been used to liquor, so it would affect me very quickly. And I'm always conscious of not having anything if I drive. If I was ever going to drive, but when I'm at home and I'm not going anywhere, you always said that red wine a glass at lunch is pretty all right. He's not bad for you. You're not talking about 2 or 3 or 3 bottles like Ian Botham. Ian can drink. He could bowl and he could bat. He could drink. Let me tell you. No, I'm not like that.
Yeah.
I'm careful about everything now. I take my tablets. I was writing to you the other day about something, asking you, and you give me something to take, haven't you? A number of things.
Yeah,
I've rung up the health store. I've rung up the health store to get it ready for me. To finish our interview, I'm going to get it.
Yeah.
That's how quick I do things.
Yeah. What was very interesting to me about all this, here we are 18 years on, and as I said, I've got pockets of Vancouver, Seattle, and then down in San Diego where I've got people with this same cancer. This is actually the 4th biggest cancer in men nowadays.
Really?
The numbers have gone up 20% in the last 5 years. It's really galloping. And 66,000 people in America are going to get it this year, and about 20,000 in the UK. I was really surprised about that.
I will ask you a question then for us all.
Okay.
Why do you think that is then? Because you're pretty smart at this. Why? Why is it suddenly gone up what I had and not others have had?
Well, you didn't have this, but I do think HPV is a player in this, a parasite, viruses and so on. And I was very, very surprised because I had about 3 or 4 people in, I think it was Vancouver, if I remember correctly, and they'd all got it, and they were all in their 70s, because the average age when you get it is 70 or 74. And it really surprised me because they'd all been told they had HPV. They'd all been happily married for 50 years, and they'd been told it lay dormant in them. So I was a bit puzzled by this. I'm not 100% sure they did all have HPV. I think the main reason is more smokers, more drinkers, and I think that access to alcohol is a big player in all this. I think you just wear yourself down. And that's when your doctor was saying, well, you don't really drink, you don't really smoke. I think that's what kept you out of trouble. And
I think one of the, sounds a small thing, but one of the best things you told me is put Vaseline up your nose. You're traveling in areas like on planes, lots of people, you're all the same air, aren't you? I carry Vaseline with me a lot of places. Where you go to hospitals where there's a lot of people sneezing and what have you, kids, where there's kids who get snotty noses and keep Vaseline, small thing of Vaseline, stick it up your nose. The hairs in your nose is the first line of defense, you told me. And I've told a lot of people about that.
I think there's other things, you see. I mean, at the end of the day, you're a sportsman. I've been a sportsman all my life. You know, I play cricket and lots of sports. But on top of that, we're out in the sunshine. And vitamin D, I mean, you talked about COVID right at the start, but vitamin D there's a straight line graph. You know, you get to 29 ng per mil and you're likely to have a quick dose of flu at the worst. If you're below 19 ng per mil, you're going to get COVID and you're going to be in trouble. But you're in the sun quite a lot. You haven't got metabolic disorder. So, you know, you're not overweight, you're not, you know, high blood pressure, you're not high blood sugar and so on. And unfortunately, 27% of people in Britain have got metabolic disorder, so they're more likely to get COVID. So at the end of the day, I'm sorry to have to say, you and I have looked after ourselves. Right. That's what it's all about.
Well, I seem to have serious illnesses and get through them. I mean, I had my spleen, I've had cancer. I mean, I've just had quadruple heart bypass 2 years ago. We found it by checkup, and I'm fine as far as I know. I'm going to be 80 at the end of the year. Sorry about that.
Right.
And I think one thing I said before, you have to work at it.
I agree.
And not be embarrassed or ashamed about it, and start now. Don't wait. If you've got cancer, then start working at complementary things that you can do to help your body. But at the same time, it would be better if people worked at it before they got cancer.
Absolutely.
If I'd have met you before I got cancer, I would have been taking lots of tablets beforehand. I would have been drinking green tea. I would have been drinking anything but milk. And, you know, but just put the phone back. But most times we don't know about it. That book you wrote is brilliant. I said, because it's so simple. Everything you need to know to help you beat cancer. I tell people about it. I said, listen, he's not telling you he can wave a magic wand and cure everybody. He's just saying, and you don't have to stop any of the treatments the doctors are giving you. He's saying that you can help your own body help itself to defeat cancer or not get cancer. That's what he's trying to tell you. And he's not saying he can cure everybody, but he's saying the body needs help. And you have to find out, preferably before you get cancer, how you can lead a better life with what you eat, what you do, what you put in this machine. This is a fantastic machine we have here. Really fantastic machine. But it needs a bit of help. I didn't realize that. I was too busy batting and scoring runs until I got cancer. I wish I'd have known it 50 years ago. I would have started all the things that it says. And listen, if you can't do everything that you say in that book, do what you can to help yourself. It's your life. Do you want to live? Do you want to live?
I'm going to ask you a little question. I guess Rachel is off to your left.
Yeah,
I'm
somewhere,
sure a lot of our people would love to see her. Is she presentable?
Oh, no, she's gone. Rach, are you there? She comes in. Yeah, she's been the star. Oh, no doubt. I'm not saying that to give her any tics or anything. I mean, I'm not. I don't need to. She was strong, resolute, warm, empathized with me, and she knew it. I might die. She knew. She heard everything. She went with me everywhere, and she was clever. See, the people help you. There was a nurse came. Julie Maltman popped in one day, very early on, and she used to pop in. She lived nearby. She was one of the local nurses. I'd never met her before, but she'd heard I got cancer. She came in, see if she could help. At the end of a shift, she used to pop in. She used to go home visits and what have you for the GP. And then she used to pop in at end of a shift. She lived 3 or 4 miles away. Come here, they want to see you. Hey, yeah, Chris wants to see you. And he goes, this is the star of the show. Julie
that's
Maltman
right.
was
That's
fantastic.
Right.
She used to come here, he's here.
Rachel,
yeah,
come a bit across. All the people who are going to watch this and listen to it, they actually understand that you're the star of the show. And
listen, just to be clear, she's lucky I married her. I'm telling
18
you,
years old. Yeah. Oh, look, from me, from everybody who's going to hear this, have a really great 80th birthday, Geoffrey. And I've enjoyed
talked to you
talking
before
to you.
then. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thanks ever so much for your time today. It's really, really kind of you. All the very, very best. Okay.
Keep safe, everybody.
Okay. See you. Bye.
Hi, Chris. That was a great show with Geoffrey. Were you pleased with your chat with him?
Yeah, I thought it was great fun, actually. I thought it wasn't a chat or an interview. It was just fun, really. We got a lot of insight out of him on cancer, I thought. And I thought we saw other sides to Geoffrey you just don't see on TV. So I thought all round it was great.
Was that really your first ever personal prescription, or PP as it's called?
Yeah, I did it. It was 18 years ago. And the next day I did Galena, and then Mrs. Omar was on the radio show, and all three are still alive today. It's quite incredible. I built Geoffrey a diet, an exercise program. I put supplements in there. I put apricot kernels in there, and I put a parasite killer in there. And for me, you know, Geoffrey and I have obviously had chats before, but for me, the interesting thing was how quickly it all worked. I was really surprised. He told me once that 8 weeks later, 8 weeks after I built the PP, he went into Leeds General Infirmary, and they were bloody embarrassed, he said, because his tongue tumour had gone right down. And I think this is one of the major reasons why, you know, he less orthodox medicine. He mainly radiotherapy. He didn't have the surgery, then break his jaw, which is what they were going to do. And he had a little bit of chemo, and that was it. So I personally always been convinced since day one that he had a parasite. I think that was the big player in it all.
Yeah, because he asked you what you thought the causes of the cancer are.
Well, I was really surprised to look it all up, as I said in the interview. I mean, this cancer, oral, you know, neck and throat, I mean, head, neck and throat, there's a big definition of it. It's grown 20% in the last 5 years in Britain and America. And yes, smoking and alcohol are big factors. But for me, you know, there's an awful lot to do here with the microbiome. So you've got the gut and the stomach microbiome coming this way. So we know, for example, acid reflux plays a big part in these sorts of cancers. And we know actually there's also links to the oral microbiome. So the bad bugs are coming up and they're going down in this cancer. And you've got to remember, these bad guys, as I keep saying in interviews, they make microRNA, and that microRNA can trump yours and change it and how it works. And you've got to get rid of them. You've got to. I'm not saying, you know, that you can reverse cancer. I'm saying you can kill the influences driving the cancer. That's what I'm saying. And sometimes the cancer just goes.
It's the bad guys that really overrule you, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to get rid of them. It's bad guys make toxins. I mean, the difference in good guys and bad guys, the good guys make your B vitamins and melatonin and glutathione and serotonin, keep you happy. The bad guys just make toxins, but they all make microRNA. And you've got to remember, you've got 3 times as many bacteria in your body as you've got cells in terms of DNA. So they're making 3 times more messages than you are making. So at any one time, nearly 40% of the small molecules in your bloodstream come from these guys, not you. So they overrule you. And that's why you've got to make sure you haven't got too many bad ones around.
Chris, we're getting hundreds of people now come on to the Sunday show. So what's next on the Sunday show?
Well, we've got 2 more lined up, where I built a personal program for someone 6 or 7 years ago, and their cancer's all gone away. So I've got Zoe, who's going to talk about breast cancer, and we're going to go through that because it's a particular sort of personal prescription. And then we've got Mark, who had prostate cancer, and again, it's completely different, and that's why it's called a personal prescription. Those 2 shows are going to go out on different Sundays in August, and then we're going to have Jane McClellan talking about off-label drugs. Then I'm going to talk a bit about the gut microbiome, and we've got Dr. Julian Kenyon talking about fecal transplants. And then in November, I've got Dr. Thomas Lodi, who's got a clinic in Arizona. He's got a clinic in Phuket. And we're going to run through all the sort of integrative alternative treatments like intravenous vitamin C, insulin potentiation therapy, hypothermia, and so on. So, you know, by the time we get to Christmas, I hope we've covered all sorts of things. And everybody should be really interested in the Sunday show, because you know we're going to cover the most interesting topics there are at the moment that can affect you and help you increase your personal odds of beating cancer. So that's what it's all about. And you know, as you know, it's, if you want to tune into this, it's all the details are on Cancer Active, and in particular, you go to the Sunday show with Chris Woollams and put in Cancer Active on Google search or whatever, and you'll get there. I mean, Geoffrey Boycott's the next one coming up, and then we've got the rest of the year lined up. And I'm going to make sure we put it all up on Cancer Active site so everybody can see the whole year in advance.
And of course, they're all going to be on video channel now, so people can watch them anytime during the day on that Sunday to suit them.
Yeah, that's really great. I think we're gradually learning how to do it. And I think the quality of the picture and the sound is excellent. We've got subtitles on there. And I think it's turning into a very professional channel.
Chris,
Very pleased.
all I can say is, let's see you in August.
Yeah, see you in August. Okay, see everyone.